Did you know most of the strength gains happen after the training during the recovery period? So therefore, recovery is just as, if not more important than the actual training itself, because if you don't recover, the entire intense workout could be for nothing. So today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the more tried and tested recovery tactics, as well as some of the more controversial recovery tactics. So stay tuned. So the first thing we're going to look at is having sufficient rest. And what do I mean by that? Basically, after your training, you want to ensure that you have sufficient rest such that your body kind of recovers and overcompensated and you're ready for another workout. So a good rule of thumb is that generally it takes about 48 hours after a very intense workout before you can kind of train very intensively again. But as always, there is a lot of exceptions to this. Like for example, badminton players or professional badminton players typically train twice a day. So that goes without saying, if you're a lot more professional, you would probably train a lot more frequently. At the same time, if you're a lot fitter, you also need to train a lot more frequently. It depends on your sport. And if you're nearing competition, sometimes even like the Singapore national team, you would train like 3 times a day, 8 hours a day. So it really depends on so many factors. But a good rule of thumb is that if you're a recreational player, you can train every alternate day and you should be fine. And the second part of resting well is having sufficient sleep. So this again broad and there's a lot of conflicting information, but generally if you sleep like 8 hours, which is the recommended amount of sleep that an average person should get, you can't go wrong with that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is stretching and massaging. So I kind of bundle these two together because in my opinion, they kind of achieve the same thing and you can kind of replace one with the other. If you don't want to stretch, you can go for massages and that kind of solves the problem. Basically, these two things, what they try to do is try to relax your muscle, increase your range of motion and try to remove lactic acid throughout your body. So the best time to do it is really after your training and not before, because research have shown that if you do it before your training, it kind of affects strength. So just bear that in mind. So to do that before the big game. So let's start off with stretching. So when it comes to stretching, right, the key thing that you kind of need to understand is the total time stretch. So basically, it doesn't really matter if you do 10 seconds for 100 sets or 100 seconds for 10 sets or 30 seconds, but basically you get the idea is that the only metric that matters is how long you've been stretching. Bear in mind though, if you kind of overstretch, you can get injured. So when you stretch, a good way to kind of go about doing it is this 5-second interval. So kind of try to stretch for 5 seconds and then, you stretch and hold the stretch for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, you try to increase the kind of range that you stretch just by a little bit for another 5 seconds, then increase it again and again and again. So if you are just cooling down and relaxing, I think 30 seconds per muscle group is more than sufficient. If you want to increase your range of motion, then I would suggest at least 5 minutes per muscle group. Again, I'm not the professional when it comes to increasing your range of motion, so don't quote me on that, but I know that definitely need to stretch like at least 5 minutes per muscle group if you want to increase your range of motion. So if you want to see my cool down routine, I'm going to add it over here once it's done. Right now it's not done yet, so stay tuned. And now on to the next part, which is massages. So massaging, right? So when it comes to massage type of recovery, there's really 2 ways you can do it. If you have a little bit more budget to spare, I would highly recommend for you to kind of try out sports massage. So sports massages are kind of done by trained physiotherapists or sports masseurs, and basically it's very different from your Chinese massage or other kinds of Thai oil-based kind of massage. In that sports massage really aims to help you increase your range of motion and release specific kind of tension. So bear in mind those sports massages can be quite painful, and I've been, I did get access to sports massage while I was training in the national team, so I used to visit like once every week, and it's painful as hell. So if you can't bear the pain or you don't have the kind of budget to afford sports massages, another way you can do it is to get a simple object. So there are various tools that athletes use to kind of release tension on their body. The first, I think the most budget option that I can think of and that was recommended to me by a physiotherapist is this baseball. So this rubber baseball is really hard and it gets the job done. If you want something that's a little bit more professional and more properly or more effective, you can get something like a foam roller. This is for the back, by the way, or a long rectangular kind of foam roller, or you can get a trigger ball. So both of them, all of them work well in releasing tension in your body, and more importantly is how you kind of use them. So there are a lot of tutorials out there that kind of teach you how you can use the foam roller, how to use the trigger ball properly. So if you do want to buy these things out, do check out the description box below. I've left several recommendations below for you to kind of try out. Do bear in mind we get a small kickback at no additional cost to you, and that really helps support this channel. So the third important point is to make sure that you sufficiently hydrate yourself. So drinking enough water kind of helps you release lactic acid from your body. But bear in mind though, if you overhydrate yourself, and that's what happened to me in the national team of 20 people, I was the only person that was overhydrated. What happens if you overhydrate yourself is that you would be a lot more susceptible to getting a lot of cramps, muscle cramps, and if that is a problem for you, you should take note that you're overhydrating yourself. That's first. And secondly, you can drink sports drinks, you know, those like Gatorade or your 100 plus. That kind of helps replenish the lost sodium from overhydration, or you just reduce the amount of water you drink. So now to the fourth tip, probably the more important tip out of the four that I've mentioned, and that is to have or eat enough protein throughout the day. So a good rule of thumb is that you want to eat about 1.5 grams of protein per kg. So that really depends on your weight. If you're a bigger person, you would need to eat more protein. Just to give you some perspective, a person like me needs to eat about 20 eggs, hard-boiled eggs, medium-sized hard-boiled eggs in a day. So again, this varies based on a lot of factors, such as the types of workout that you do. If you do more of like an aerobic footwork kind of workout, you probably need to eat slightly less. If you do like strength related kind of workouts like jump smash, or you do strength training, then you probably would need to eat a lot more protein. And it also really depends on your own body. Like some people can absorb protein a lot better, some people don't. So as a good rule of thumb, just eat a little bit more, because if you eat a little bit more, you overcompensate, you would basically recover a lot better. So some of the places where you can find high quality protein would be like your tofu, your nuts, your seeds, your beans, and many other places. And when it comes to ingesting protein, a lot of people would think of supplements. So just a very important word of caution when it comes to eating supplements, because if you are kind of competing or playing professionally, you need to be very, very, very careful of what supplements that you're taking, because you really don't know what substance is being put inside into the supplements. A lot of athletes have gotten into trouble for accidentally eating banned substance. Even Lee Chong Wei got into trouble. So just be very, very careful. Secondly, if you are a kid or a teenager, a child, you want to be extra careful, because it is very unclear. The research has not. It is very, very unclear whether protein or basically supplements would affect growth in children. So as a general rule of thumb, if you can avoid eating supplements, just avoid it. Basically eat a healthy and eat bigger portion of a healthy meal, and you should be fine. And that kind of concludes the more tried and tested, the more proven kind of recovery tactics. So now I'm going to be talking about the more unconventional, the more contested kind of recovery theories and tactics. So this is really for those of you that are like competing at during competition. You really want to squeeze out that additional like 20% more recovery speed. Then you know some of these tactics would really apply to you. So if you are training professionally, you might want to consider really checking out this section below. So first up is this theory of the anabolic window. Basically, it's not just how much protein you're eating, but also the time or duration, the intervals in which you eat the protein. So personally, I have, while I was training in the national team, the national strength and conditioning coach kind of advised me to kind of ingest protein right after my training. So he kind of told me that there was three kind of windows to ingest protein. Like one is like 30 minutes, the second one is 2 hours, and the third one is 24 hours. So research have found that it is likely that only the 24-hour kind of window really makes sense. But personally, when I kind of listened to my coach, he told me to get like a packet of UHT milk. So I kind of got that and I drank that right after my training. I actually experienced significant kind of improvement in my recovery speed. But bear in mind, back then in national team, I was training like 3 times a day, 8 hours in total, more or less, and that is a lot of hours that's spent working out. So that kind of extra UHT milk really helped me feel better. It is unclear, or it is, research have shown that it is more likely because I kind of ingested a lot more protein, and it is because I ingested more protein throughout the day that led to my increase in recovery speed, more so than the timing in which I ingested the protein. So kind of bear that in mind, take this with a pinch of salt when you try this theory, because research have shown that this anabolic window is more likely a myth than a reality. It's more bro science, so just bear that in mind. For me, it worked. It might work for you too. The next thing is about magnesium. So magnesium is really important or helpful when it comes to, because of its anti-inflammatory kind of effect on the body. So do bear in mind to eat more legumes, because it kind of helps reduce the soreness, the inflammation in your body. Again, that is highly contested, so do check that out with precaution. And the next third technique that I'm going to talk about is active recovery. So active recovery basically means you want to kind of work out the same muscles that kind of went through very intense training. So let's say, for example, you did a very intense leg workout. So right after the workout, you want to do a little bit of active recovery, meaning to say you do like a light jog for 10 minutes, or maybe during your rest days. So let's say you train every alternate day. During your rest day, you spend maybe 30 minutes doing a light jog, because you're working the same muscle, to kind of recover that muscle quicker. And science have shown that it does help you to recover quicker. But again, active recovery, light training is very subjective. So again, when my coach was teaching me, he said a good rule of thumb is that you must be able to kind of converse with a friend. So if you can converse with a friend while actually doing that workout, basically you're in the territory of active recovery. So for legs, basically like jogging. For arms, when you warm up with your friends, half quad, that kind of suffices as active recovery for the arms. Or basically you can just sit against the wall 10 minutes, 20 minutes after your training or during your rest days. The next thing we're going to talk about is the compression garments. This is so contested. A lot of research have shown this to be positive, and a lot of people question this research because is it funded by apparel company? I'm honestly not that sure, but as a national athlete, again, I was given compression garments by Li-Ning, and I used them. They felt good. So if you want to check them out, research have shown that they do help when it comes to aerobic kind of recovery, if you want to do endurance kind of training. But research have also shown that they do not really contribute so much to strength gains. So again, bear that in mind. All these will probably kind of help you with just a little bit of gains. So if you do want to check out compression garments, again, I have a couple of recommended compression garments in the description down below. Bear in mind, again, we get a small kickback, and that supports this channel. Alright, so now let's move on to the next recommendation, which is about contrast bath. So contrast bath is basically how do I put this? Basically, you kind of spend 1 minute in ice cold water and another minute in warm water. So that sudden change in temperature and that very cold, very hot temperature kind of shocks your body into recovering a little bit faster or improving your circulation, and therefore increase your recovery speed. So this is again very contested. And the funny thing was that while I was in the national team, I did contrast bath quite frequently during my stint. So again, were they using us as test subjects, or was it because it was effective, therefore they gave us contrast bath to improve our recovery speed? I am not exactly sure, to be honest. But what I can tell you is that after the contrast bath, I do feel very relaxed, and that kind of felt good. So again, if you don't have access to such high quality equipment, another way you can kind of do this, and this was taught to me by the Singapore Sports School coach, by the way, so different coaches kind of told me the same thing. You can kind of do contrast bath at home by basically adjusting your heater to a very high temperature that doesn't burn you, and then for a minute, and then kind of switch it down to a low temperature for the next minute. Do this for about 3 cycles and you're kind of good to go. And now for another recommendation, and that is to elevate your legs after an intense workout. So basically limbs that are working very hard, you kind of elevate them, and that helps in recovery. Again, this is borderline unproven, more likely unproven than not. Some say that it kind of improves circulation, which has been proven to be false. But what I did feel was that elevating your legs when you are sleeping kind of makes you sleep a little bit better. I'm not sure if it works for you, but the way I did it was to basically put a pillow under my legs when I sleep. That felt good. If it helps me recover faster, great. If it doesn't, I enjoy sleeping with my legs slightly elevated. Alright, so for those of you that are taking on the 30-day badminton challenge, I have 2 tasks for you today. The first task is for you to kind of reflect, take some time to kind of reflect throughout this 2 weeks. What are some of the struggles, triumphs that you have faced? I want you to let me know in the description down below. I'm here to help you, so you kind of need to let me know what's your progress, what are some of the problems you have, and I'll get back to you in the comment section below. And the second task I have for you is, you see all this recovery tactics that I've kind of given you. I probably gave you close to 10 different tactics. What I want you to do is to pick one that you feel is something new that you haven't tried and implement it today moving forward. Alright, so I want you to take these 2 tasks seriously, try to complete them and let me know how it goes for you. With that said, in the next video, I'm going to be sharing with you an effective cool down routine. So if you haven't or you don't have a cool down routine, do check it over here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.